Hey folks, how's it going? Zach here. Just want to make a video about my thoughts on the whole Jussie Smollett situation, something that's been going on for the past 2 weeks, amassing a lot of coverage ever since the initial January 29th attack. And I don't think that I need to go into a lot of detail regarding Jussie Smollett about how he fabricated this whole hoax of being attacked by MAGA supporters for being gay and being on the show Empire. You know, a lot of the ins and outs of it. I'm sure by this point we're pretty sick of hearing it. And also just happy, if you're a little bit of a right-winger, blatantly seeing the hypocrisy of the left, you know, painting MAGA supporters as being racist and homophobic. But, you know, now that it's already been revealed that he essentially paid off these two Nigerian people to attack him and to put a rope around his neck, you know, it hasn't aged very well. But the bigger issue that I want to point a lot of my viewers to is not the aspect of Jussie Smollett, but the fact that as a black gay man in America, you essentially have black privilege. And this video is probably going to get a lot of thumbs down for me saying that, but he is a living embodiment of the example of if you are an intersectional LGBT person of color, you can basically get away with anything in America. Why do I say this? Even in light of Jussie Smollett being investigated by the police. Now, he's been arrested, but he hasn't been convicted yet. And with all this evidence coming out about how, you know, how the whole thing has been a hoax and it was fabricated, he's still on the Empire payroll. Now, that could change in the very near future, but can you imagine if this guy was a white man? Like, doesn't this point a shining example as to the clear bias and the hypocrisy in America? If it were anyone who wasn't a trans person or a gay person and not a person of color, if it was a white straight man, he would immediately be put into prison, no question about it whatsoever, probably without even an investigation. Just on the sheer notion of if he was somebody who was a victim of someone else, of a hate crime, which in America, according to leftist rhetoric, you can't be oppressed as a white person, even though right now, as it stands, white people are more oppressed than black people from an institutionalized point of view. And if you disagree with me, well, let me know below. But this is a clear example of black privilege. This is a clear example of LGBT privilege. I mean, the left is essentially doing that, and there's clear bias, right? Megyn Kelly can get fired over benign comments regarding blackface, lose a CNBC contract or an MSNBC contract over that. Roseanne can get kicked off her own show for just comments. But somebody who fabricates a hate crime, somebody who makes it up, lies about it, perpetrates it, actually planned and engineered the whole thing, yeah, you know, we're going to investigate him, but we're going to still leave him on the payroll for now. Yeah, he's probably not going to get acting gigs in the future. But this just shows that when it comes to intersectionalism, as the progressive left would like to coin it, between people of color, especially if you're LGBT friendly, that you essentially can get away with murder in America. Now, he's not getting away with it, but there's a cashing out that happens with people who fit the liberal bias, or the progressive bias, I should say, of being oppressed because of sexual assault, because of racism, because of any kind of discrimination whatsoever. Take, for example, Christine Blasey Ford, which is a very high-profile case involving Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court, and where is she now? What about his other accusers who turned out to be people who made up the whole thing? I mean, I know these names probably don't have a lot of relevance today, but when we think about people like Julius Swetnick, I mean, you know, talking about how he went around gang raping everybody, essentially dragging his name through the mud. Like, I mean, what's happening to these people? Christine Blasey Ford capitalized off of that. She made over $1 million just in support, in tweets, in publicity, because of the fact that she cried wolf and cried victim. Being a victim in America today, if you fit all the requirements, whether you are a person of color or a woman or a trans person or a gay person, automatically means that you can basically file a grievance report and get cashed out for it, get paid for it. Because that was clearly Jussie Smollett's intention with this, was that, hey, if he fabricated a hoax where MAGA supporters were going to beat him up in a very staged hate crime, that would essentially further his career, win him some political points amongst very, very prominent people in the mainstream, as well as politicians, and, you know, probably lead to something similar to the outcome of Christine Blasey Ford, where you basically get to walk away with GoFundMe money or however, whatever type of donations of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. That's essentially what this would have equated into. And then look at how the left is eating themselves, saying, well, police can't be trusted. Why do we trust police with the investigation? Well, you know what? If you want to play identity politics, the police officer was black and in Chicago. Does that make you feel better? But that's the thing. If there's one thing that I hate more than hate crimes, it's self-fulfilling hoaxes, self-fulfilling self-engineered hate crimes. But what's the big takeaway from all of this, everybody? It's the fact that real hate crimes, which is going on right now in New York, there are Jews, there are people of color that are being discriminated against, actually beat up by other people, by black people, by immigrants, whatever you may call it, and yet we don't cover that. People are getting killed with illegal immigrant border crossings. People who traffic drugs, people who smuggle, children, traffic children, sex slavery. All that stuff goes on, and yet, we don't think of those things as very important because they aren't politically correct. And the left blatantly ignores this stuff. This is great because, for one thing, it essentially just outlines and shakens. It outlines, number one, what right-wingers stand for, which is not for actual hate crimes. I mean, if you actually commit hate crimes in this country, if you are actually a perpetrator of a hate crime, then you belong to a very small minority of people who's not going to get very far in this country. But MAGA supporters pushing hate crimes is absolutely ridiculous. But there is cash to be made. There's money to be made with hoaxes like this. If you go around crying wolf, if you're going around playing victim, there is a such thing as being a professional victim these days. Yes, there is. Women who make up hoaxes and falsely accuse men of sexual assault and rape, which you've seen case in point time and time again, Clarence Thomas, Brian Banks. And now, it's like if you belong to a minority group in terms of the membership where you are an oppressed class, an oppressed group of people in America, guess what? There's money to be made in that. You probably could get paid just to complain. As a matter of fact, you do get paid to complain because clearly that's what Linda Sarsour gets paid to do. But that's the craziness of it all, is that we fall into that bandwagon so quickly. And I didn't want to talk about it because you know what? I think my first intention, when I first heard about Jussie Smollett, would have been, oh, this is fake, this is fabricated. I mean, a lot of things didn't line up. But at the same time, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and see what played out. Now, granted, it was just one of those it was almost too fitting to be true. It's kind of like you got attacked by MAGA supporters. I mean, that's clearly what the left wants. So it was already very suspect from the beginning. I had my suspicions. And then as the story unfolded over the coming weeks and, more evidence came to light and the two attackers allegedly, admitted to the police that they were paid to do this, it all falls apart. But being a professional victim in America is the new thing to do if you are a person of color, if you're a trans person, if you in some way, any shape or form claim to be oppressed. But really, the attack on masculinity, the attack on white people is real. And no, I'm not some, you guys throw all kinds of racial slurs where, I'm being whitewashed by white people. I'm just seeing things for how they are. As far as institutionalized racism goes, from what we can see in media bias, and even in the criminal justice system, right now, as a matter of fact, you are probably going to be suffering the blunt end of the stick when you are anybody but a black person or a person of color or a trans person when it comes to any kind of accusations, whether it's regarding race or discrimination in any form whatsoever. You guys have it bad if you are of a so-called privileged class in America. White people, Asian people, whatever it may be. But if you're black, gay, for LGBT rights, and you're somebody who is on a television show where you get paid well over $300,000 to be on, are you really oppressed? Jussie Smollett, are you really a victim? Are you really oppressed? You're on a nationally aired, syndicated television show, which, you're not Terrence Howard, you're not a big deal, but still, you get paid over $300,000 a year, man. You really had to hire people to further your career? So now you're essentially a greedy progressive? And you claim to be for LGBT rights and everything, representing that class of people, but you're cashing out on it. You're a fake. You're a fraud, just like Al Sharpton. But they love it. Being a professional victim is profitable in today's society, everybody. So if you're a leftist, take notes. But just know this, for all you people out there who are going to be perpetuating hate crimes, think about this for a second. It devalues the real hate crimes, the real racism, and the real discrimination that's going on in this country when people cry wolf. Now we're not going to believe you anymore. And guess what? More and more, they're just going to find different people to blame. If it's not MAGA supporters, it's going to be each other. That's just what happens. Because the rhetoric isn't consistent and we don't evaluate things clearly. We jump on political bandwagons. We lobby people with tweets like this. You know? We are so accustomed to believing victims without investigating them. To the point where when we do it for real, it doesn't matter anymore. Uh-oh, my computer's starting to play random music for some reason. Anyways, all I have to say is thank you so much for listening to today's video. I know, the whole Jussie Smollett thing has been going on for a while, and to be honest, I don't want to be that guy that's always just covering what's going on. But my take on this is simple. If there's anything that's worse than hate crimes, it's fake hate crimes. And if there's anything worse than somebody crying privilege or crying victim status, it's people who actually aren't victims. People who are well off. There are real victims in America. Real people who are oppressed. Poor people, real people of color who are being oppressed. Jussie Smollett is not oppressed in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he probably has more privilege than the average white person in America today. And yes, I said that. Jussie Smollett has more privilege than the average white person walking around today. That's all I have to say for today's video. Let me know what you think, you guys. Leave this video a like and a comment if you enjoyed what I had to say. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care.